Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RashlyInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. As you can see, it's actually a little bit closer to the top of the hour. We had an extra long daily brief here Tuesday on the 9th. Actually, we like to have Kevin on the show today. And he was, of course, telling us about all his wonderful warrants and stock trades that he's kicking butt on. Actually, he had one idea. I just went and bought it. So good. In fact, I'll even show you it here today. Also, too, and I thought this was really cool, we took a lot of time today in the daily brief and went through all the various altcoins. And Kevin's seeing a whole bunch of bullish divergences starting to come in on MACD histograms, which is great. That's an awesome sign because when you have location, you want some sort of indicator confirmation that, hey, price is stronger than what price is leading you to believe. So that's sort of the next step in sort of what does the bottoming process look like. And then finally, you want to see some W's in price and get in there and make some money from trading. So super pleased to see that, and if anything, I like that kind of thinking where we're not necessarily pounding the table. It's a rip-roaring bull. Right now, it's sort of like lots of really good-looking longer-term bases are being laid in the market, setting up, for the bull run of sort of like probably 2021, 2022, 2023. So fantastic offering by Kevin today. And as I said there a moment ago, we actually are doing this a little bit later because he was so chock full of content. I think we went on for about an hour and a half or so. When I look at the broader market, anytime I start to see, and it's great to see, we've got the breadth indicator actually updating in real time here, which is fantastic. But anytime I start to see breadth indicators start to get up into, classic RSI, overbought, oversold, really any sort of price oscillators, when you start getting up above 70, 80%, you have to just simply understand, hey, the market's getting very overbought. So, that in itself should be a bit of a warning sign. We don't really have any signs of failure yet here. When the fast starts emming out and starts crossing below the slow, then we'll know, all right, we're in the shit. Let's see how bad this gets. But for the time being, the message should be we've come an awful long way in a relatively short period of time. We understand all these seasonal forces at work. Maybe the bull market was delayed because of the coronavirus impact. But they are bidding up the speculative part of the market right now. Very normal end of the market run. And then, I suppose if we go into talks about things like celestial events, I'm on balance, I'm cautioning people that, what I'm actually hearing, which really scares the hell out of me, is things like Brazil. They've just decided we're not going to follow any of these COVID numbers anymore. The numbers are just too staggering and we'll just be embarrassed. So no, we're not even reporting the numbers anymore. Mexico, it's supposed to be absolutely over the top numbers. And what I've heard recently is that Texas officially opened their state up a week or two ago. And the numbers are starting to ramp up there again. So, oh boy, here we go. What I would just simply say, and I've been cautioning people about this all along here, these, I don't know whether it is celestial event related or, maybe that's just some crazy connection Brian's put together. But I am looking for our next sort of trough here, end of June, beginning of July. Does it go to new lows? I doubt it, but who fucking knows in this crazy world. But I am definitely, and, seasonally usually, we see a pause into the end of June, beginning of July, sell in May, walk away, blah, blah, blah. And I wonder, especially considering all the humming and hawing about earnings and what is the economy really going to do, I wonder whether maybe that bottom has to come in the first, second week of July through that earnings reporting season. I don't know. I will say from our sort of risk on, risk off perspective, we actually have now talk that the Federal Reserve is going to be speaking in front of the U.S. Congress pretty soon So, ironically enough, you might even argue that, from a stock market perspective, we're basically right back in sort of mid January levels. Could the Fed come out and say, Powell and all them say, okay, we gave you free money here to get the market off its lows? That's happened. Now we got to start sort of normalizing things. And does that sort of put in a top? I don't know. Also, too, I've been conjecturing that I wonder whether this event has more to do with sort of social upheaval, defund the police, all that kind of movement, versus actual stock market and equity or commodity valuations. We might not even see a reaction in the markets from this, but at the same time, too, I wouldn't bet on that. So, any way you shake it, you look at an image like this, and we should understand we've come an awful long way in a very short period of time. Extremely volatile price action. Could we go through a month or two of pullback here? Sure, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. But do I have an actual sell signal here today? I'm not getting it on the breadth on the site. I don't have any price action here. What I would say is, through the daily brief conversations, we went through a lot of sort of internal measures, breadth indicators, stuff like that. And we're getting a lot of warning signs that, hey, things are getting absolutely ridiculous. Look for some sort of top here over the next little while. So that's sort of my mental state right now. At the same time, too, the little ones are popping off. And we have an expression, make hay while the sun's shining. Turns out, actually, I am long this mammoth after all. I didn't want to be long any oil stocks, but we also run a side account that one of our site OGs, who's my right-hand man teaching the level 3 program, Zach and I, we run a little penny options program. And we have our TRI SOF meeting tonight. And it turns out we actually, for that plan, because Zach isn't such an oil snob as Brian is, he was highly enthusiastic about buying call options in the oil market when it was down. And so it turns out I am long some oil after all. Imagine that. So obviously, Zach is a very happy camper here this morning. And what a crazy market, eh? Oh, Jesus. Up and down like a horse drawers. So, make hay while the sun's shining. You see a lot of uppy here. So, obviously, a lot of TRI people are very happy. And, banging out doubles messages across the board. It's just a little ridiculous how some of these guys are just making an absolute killing here. Yeah, so I probably... Holy Jesus, look at your... Oh, Kevin! We didn't even talk about this one today in his show. Look at what
oh my God.
That was ridiculous. Have you completely lost focus on this one, Kevin? He's got so many insane wins here. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
I did see it was moving up earlier today, but not that much.
Well, there you go. Merry Christmas. Christmas in July, right? And way to go, Kevin. And, the funny thing is you can't say that we here doing these daily brief recaps didn't tell you about this. I remember specifically telling you about laughing my fucking ass off. And there you go. So, oh boy, what a crazy market. I don't even know if I could do this show here. I've totally derailed myself. Sorry, everyone. Okay, let's get back to what we're supposed to be talking about here. Laughing my fucking ass off. US dollar index. Finally coming into those AB equals CD objectives. Bang, 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 bang. Look at that, right on the nose. And interesting how this event is happening right as the U.S. Federal Reserve is supposed to be testifying in front of Congress. So this is an interesting event window here. And again, this is sort of same sort of thing. Is this the end of that risk on kind of move? All the pieces of shit are moving up. Kevin's laughing his fucking ass off right now. And, here's yet another anecdote that, When the US dollar is moving down, usually that's actually a risk on vote. So really, seeing blow off top, frothy, insano, nutso market state as the US dollar is coming into a big bearish objective, that actually makes perfect sense to me. So, I would be thinking we're nearing the end of the move, not the beginning. So, if we look at risk on, risk off, it's interesting to see the oil, even though the oil stocks seem to be jumping up quite a bit here. The oil itself is actually not moving much higher here. We sort of parked just below 40 bucks. And again, is this a conversation about this gap here? And maybe that's the ultimate sort of stalling point. I would be curious too on this oil to see whether this is like a 113 fib, because it looks just eyeball-y like it is. I haven't really done this before, but let's see what happens here. Boop to boop. And what's a 113? 113's classic level. A lot of harmonic traders like to hit. So there's 113. Oh, that was 127.2. Another huge harmonic level. So actually, I should print this off, because tomorrow we have level 3 class, and we have another awesome presentation by a TRIOGer. This is kind of looking sharky to me, believe it or not. And I'm having fun in this video. It's all over the place here today. Sorry, everybody. Let's see. Where is our cheat sheet? Thought the shark stopped at, where we are. Shark can go 113 all the way up to 1.618. Interesting. And then the move the other direction is usually 88.6 to 113. So it isn't quite sharky. Actually, you know what? It might be a butterfly. Isn't that interesting? So did we get a 78.6 retracement against that level? Where are we here? Is that 78.6? Ooh. Let's see what we got here. Boom. 78.6 is to there. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Not really. Anyway, I'm just sort of talking out loud here to myself. I mean, do I have a trade there? Not really. I suppose TRISOFs, maybe if you had like a 32 put option for less than $1 or so, that might be attractive. I could very easily see a nice pullback against these lows. I suppose the ultimate question is, do you have divergences and stuff setting up some sort of M top up here? But simple message, I would say here, risk on. They're pulling back a little bit. I heard that some of this premium was being built into price because of the potential hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico that I think has made landfall. So we might see a bit of premium come out of oil prices. Gulf of Mexico, lots of oil drilling. So there's always a premium associated with oil prices around events in there. That's about all I can really add to this conversation right now. There's no real trade for me. Stock market, I'd kind of shown you those levels. This is the levels that I like to talk to you guys in the public about. Head and shoulders objectives hit, ABC objectives hit. We had another ABCD. That was also hit. Clearly cleaned out all of these liquidity pools. Thank you very much for your business. Came back interesting against the original sort of market structure failure. It's not the prettiest M, but clearly that was an important support line. You can see the market is really battling at that level right now. I don't see any reason why we can't fill that gap in, but if we can't, and we do end up topping out, that'll definitely be a target going forward. But as it stands right now, do we really want to get too overtly bullish in the market? Picture says 1,000 words. So I did find it interesting that I was talking to you guys recently about risk on, risk off. I had mentioned this in the daily briefs as well to the site people. I really like this idea. I have to find the chart though of the Japanese yen really sort of was a nice leader. Remember we had said the yen really fell out of bed and the bonds caught up and the gold caught up. Then yen just took off like a rocket here, and that sort of turned the bonds back up. And interestingly enough, with this gold, we even made a reference yesterday. I mean, with that big fat smiley face staring at us in the face, I don't want to have anything to do with this market. But we did make reference, at least I did, that it wouldn't shock me if we actually heard some pro traders were coming in and buying against that 1662 low, I think it was. 1666.2. So the low from a couple days ago, remember we made references, 1671.70. And they actually went and painted an inside bar reversal yesterday. So the gold held the lows. Woohoo, party! As I said, big fat M right here staring us in the face. I don't like the look of that. Nice counter trend rally. It still looks to me like we're range bound. But, I think the bottom line here, ironically enough, I don't think gold's driving its own bus right now. As I had said there a moment ago, sort of feels to me like the yen is actually driving the bus here, and gold and bonds are being dragged along with it. So, there isn't really a new trade for me here on the gold or the silver or any of the gold stocks. I think, they've come an awful long way. Very much like the stock market, I'd be very careful about taking new positions on there. And the bonds, we had already talked about that at length recently. We broke to the downside. I think the strangle trade is just working. If and when we ultimately get to those harmonic objectives, it might be a fun exercise just to go see how that strangle trade played out. But I think that's just working away. It's interesting how yesterday we did put in an inside bar reversal, same thing with the gold. So you can actually see that the gold and the bonds are very highly correlated right now as sort of your risk off proxies. So if risk off is catching a bid, that's probably another sort of testament that maybe risk on is getting a little bit nosebleedy and needs to take a bit of a pause here. Probably best, why don't we move that back to the daily chart? There we go. And actually off the daily, so we didn't get an inside bar on the oil. We just got a nice little potential fractal top. So we'd have to actually lose today's lows in tomorrow's session to actually confirm any kind of top there in the oil. And the stocks, there's no top there anywhere in sight just yet. Okay, so, as a sort of anecdote of problems developing in the market, like I had said earlier for the bulls, if we look at things like the breadth of the market, there's little anecdotal warnings that, hey, be careful here, people. Stock market's going straight up, but we're not, the advanced decline line's not making new highs. And actually, you can see the number of stocks making new 52-week highs versus new 52-week lows is actually emming out up top here. Put call ratio. Nobody's buying a put option. Everybody's buying calls. That's got to be a great contrarian signal. And then also, too, what I like to sort of follow with you guys, following the temperament of the junior market. Keep in mind, junior stocks, bit more speculative, bit more risky than the senior market. And you can see this Russell 2000 versus the Dow. It's starting to look a little heavy up top here. And it was kind of cool. Kevin, he likes to follow this closely. There's actually a pretty nasty bearish momentum divergence that's building through here. So if we did look back over time, we found that, yeah, indeed, this was the top and we had to start working down. Like I said, there's anecdotal evidence that's starting to build, put call ratio, advanced decline line, new highs, new lows, Russell 2000 underperformance. There's little warning signs that trouble is brewing. But it's not here just yet. Again, going back to the dashboard, this is probably the easiest message for you. We are overbought. Respect the fact that we are now above 70. But we don't have any sell signals just yet. That's really, I think, the way I'm looking at it. So, back to our conversation. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, Brian was supposed to stay on topic. All right, so, what are we doing in Stockland these days? Brian, he's a cheap ass. I don't like to chase anything. I thought this was a really interesting idea that Kevin had suggested to the community here today. And I'm the type of guy where if I like something and I like a level, I just want to go grab some. So I listened to Kevin's presentation. I saw on this price chart that price had basically worked its way back to at or below reload zones. We filled in gaps here. Candle body wise, maybe not totally filled, but I do see a lot of time candlestick charts. If this does come down into this level, if we change this to a bar chart, the bar chart people would say that this gap was filled in right there. So the point of the matter here is, gee whiz, this is starting to look very W-y. And Brian, if I start to see W's, what's Brian probably going to do? So you can see on the chart, hey, those are looking like W's. So gee whiz, Brian went in and bought some stock. What a surprise. This is the kind of idea that if we start losing these lows down in here, I'll probably just, we start to see Russell 2000, stock market, downside reversals, blah, 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 blah. I might just walk away from this. I don't need to be a hero here. We've had lots of fun. Should I toot my own horn? I publicly came out the other day and I said, don't think I've ever seen a stock as bullish as this. Usually when somebody says something like that, probably pretty good indication the stock's going to do something. Frankly speaking, I was a bit surprised that this thing went as hard as it did, but woohoo! That was a hell of a signal, and I put the tweet out basically 2 days ago. And sure enough, so obviously we're very, very happy campers around TRI. We ain't got nothing to complain about. If anything, probably what I'm most pissed off about is I let names like this Love Sack slip through my fingers when I was watching this thing so closely through here, and I couldn't pull the goddamn trigger. So anyway, it's here nor there. Point of the matter here is you can see a lot of uppy on our screens. Here's one that I just bought recently, looking very, very nice. Like I said, I ain't got nothing to complain about in the stock market. Very, very friendly market right now. So I'm a little bit leery about putting too much new money. Of course, Brian's never going to want to chase anything. And if I am going to buy something, of course, I'm a cheap ass, so I'm hunting at or below reload zones, and I want to see buyers coming in here. So I thought this was a really good example of something that I would consider picking up a little bit of, and I did. So there you go. Merry Christmas. Over in crypto in particular, I hate to say it, but I honestly believe, and I put this tweet out here earlier this morning, I think this is basically our market state in crypto. So if you understand this image, then you'll understand exactly what I'm trying to say here. If you don't know who this gentleman is, I would strongly suggest you do a little bit of research and get to know him if you do trade crypto. But what I do see here is a very normal market state in crypto and Bitcoin in particular if there's no fundamental drivers. Remember this gentleman, he has to get paid. I mean, look at that smile. He probably has a dentist on retainer just to make damn sure that smile looks $1 million because he likes to smile at you. And remember what you're supposed to think if you see the market smiling at you. It's a little bit different analogy, but nonetheless, what I see here is, market's working its way up, and a big fuck you, stop run. Boom! Arthur gets paid. And let's counter trend rally and take it right up through this eye. Boom! Arthur gets paid. Woo, big stop runs. And, just back and forth. Looks like maybe a little stop run there. Everybody went long. I'm going to move my stops. Let's get them the fuck out of there. Let's get them the fuck out of there, right? Anybody who's going short off of this high, let's get them. And it just goes on. And I've actually just highlighted the really big stop runs. Like this looks like a classic stop run there. So that's the market state for Bitcoin right now. Be careful here, people. This guy is a fucking shark. I mean, he was Mr. Derivatives Trader at big institutional order desk, and he's like, fuck it, man. I have to do this on a regulated basis. Let's go into this fun, unregulated basis, and he knows exactly how to fuck with your head. And let's go have some fun stealing the money from these uneducated market participants. I think that's exactly the market state here, everybody. It's not really a friendly image. I'm sorry. Capitalism can be nasty sometimes. You know, if you don't want to get sucked into this mess, what's the general message that I'm giving? And that is, well, I'd sort of explain this. We have downtrend lines, uptrend lines. We have focal points here. I do definitely believe that we are in this bow tie environment. And this bow tie environment, it helps guys like Mr. Hayes, I think his name is, pay the bills, stop run central. So, unfortunately, it's not really a hell of a lot, trade-wise for a guy like me to do. But I will say, very interested in just picking up a little bit of insurance. And I actually like the idea of buying some put options in here. And just to, it's a totally unpopular sentiment. If you actually look at the put option charts, they're just completely collapsed in price. And it's a very contrarian view. And, of course, I think I've told you before, on balance, I don't mind the idea of people hunting longs and playing long setups. And I think, for a lot of names, things like Ethereum, that's still sort of working away. I don't really see any outright failures here. But I do see, they pulled a big stop run FU on Ethereum. Kevin was showing us that earlier tonight. So I do, in the daily brief here today, I do feel like this space could be vulnerable to a nice kick in the shins. So just be cognizant of that. Yes, as long as we keep painting higher highs and higher lows and, move to stop to scratch, move stop to trailing levels are not hit, then there's nothing to do. But I don't mind the idea of just, making, especially if you're long a lot of crypto, maybe it's not such a bad idea just to buy a put here or there just to cover your downside, just in case there's a big FU coming down the pike. I don't see it right now. Like I said, I'm still thinking bow tie, and really the irony of it all is at the end of this bow tie, we're probably going to be exactly the same place where we started. But nonetheless, if we start failing here and start losing this low, things could unwind very quickly here. So just be aware of that. And really, that's, what that is. That's just a conversation of this risk on, risk off. So, if Mr. Big Bad Fed comes and says, I'm going to pull the spigot, you can see this Bitcoin chart, right? I mean, you could see a little nudge here and we could tip over. And really all of these, stocks, oil, Bitcoin, just a little sneeze and this is all open air. So going and buying a put just to cover your ass, it's not a terrible idea. All right. I think that's basically everything I wanted to cover with you guys here today. So, hope you got some value out of that. I was a bit scatterbrained here today, but as I said, I'm just trying my best and hope you got a half decent message out of all that here today. All right, everybody, have yourselves a great rest of your day. All the best, and bye for now.